Hey. Oh man, do I look tan? I look tired, dude. Look at me. I just got back from the West Coast, mostly LA and the desert. I think the last episode was when I almost fucking died out there. I tried because I didn't want to miss a podcast episode. So I tried recording one in the rental car, and turns out the car, after 10 minutes, will just turn off. Oops. So it's 115 out there that day, also every day, no matter what. And it got hotter than outside because you're in like a fucking box. So it went from like a cool 78 to like uncomfortable like 4,000 in a minute. So I'm sweating. Episode had to be cut short, and I wanted to do another short one, and in the time I was out there, but I honestly couldn't find enough like uh, space or time to do video. It's funny when you do like audio, you can kind of do that shit anywhere, but video, especially on the go, and you're a one man operation like me, it's hard. Anyway, here we are back in Brooklyn. If you're in New York tonight, I'm at New York Comedy Club at in the East Village at 8:15. I know that's short notice, um, but yeah, come down. I'll do a bunch of new stuff and fuck around. Whew! I got this Mars Volta shirt. Pretty cool, right? I only had one back in the day, and then they're kind of hard to find. They didn't make like too many, but they just sold their catalog to Clouds Hill Music, I believe it is. So they're reissuing. First of all, they put all their stuff on all the streaming sites, including like rarities, B-sides, demos, everything Omar has ever done on his own, which is like 63 fucking albums or something. All that is on there if you weren't aware. So you can go listen to all his like crazy instrumentals, and then all the Mars Volta stuff. And they are reissuing everything on vinyl. So Clouds Hill, Mars Volta. You'll find it. And then they're doing a bunch of cool fucking shirts. So they have like six or seven that I can think of. So I got like one or two because the one I used to have was just the sizing was shitty. It just turns into a gym t-shirt, which like is a whole nother thing I don't want to get into right now. So it'll take a while. But what I do want to do is talk about stuff that happened in my mind when I went to Los Angeles. And so I'm from there, and I haven't experienced this yet. Like going back home after living somewhere else for a while, because I've always like full time lived there, and now I'm mostly live here. And for the first time, I'm going back home to visit, which is, I know most of you are like, fucking, we've been doing that our whole lives because we like moved out of a town we didn't like. But like I grew up in LA and like the entertainment industry is there, so I've just been there. And it's weird now to go back because like you don't have enough time. You got to visit people, and you don't get to like kind of hang out in the same way because it's the same thing. Like when you tell yourself, "Oh, I'll go there eventually because it's going to be there." The amount of things I've done in Los Angeles that are like, "Oh, yeah, I'll do that next time." I did a bunch of that this time. I went to Palm Springs on the aerial tram. Never did it before. Fucking cross off the list. Went to Salton Sea. It's bleak. It's fucking bleak. It looks like an area that like the people in Mad Max Fury Road, even they would be like let's skip that. You know, they like go around because it's fucking scary. It's run down. There's like weird installations. It looks like if a town could just run on meth. You know, like it's in the water, it's in the air, it's in the fucking electricity somehow. It's just the whole place is radiating this like energy of like that's it all the time. Like that's Salton Sea. If you could describe it in an action, it's like that's it. So we went there on our trip and we drove around and there's all these, just Google like Salton Sea Bombay Beach. It's fucking weird. Actually, since I have internet on this, I might as well utilize my fucking this thing I'm paying for. That was Twitter, Salton Sea. So images, here we go. Oh, not that shit. Bombay Beach. So I'm sure a lot of you have seen this shit, but these installations are just on the beach. So people like build this stuff, or they just leave this stuff, just like buildings that have fallen apart. Because it used to be a big tourist destination in the 50s, 60s. So my girlfriend and I watched this documentary on it, and man, it is sad. Like you look at the photos, Salton Sea, watch 1950s. And this is it. It looks like a day at the beach in LA. That's it. That's not Santa Monica. That's a sea in the middle of the desert. And it's an accidental sea. So what happened was a like diversion from the Colorado River that a bunch of farmers made for agricultural purposes burst from a flood and then just like populated this entire salt basin that used to be like a sea, 10 million years ago or whatever. And it just filled it. And out of nowhere, overnight, it became the largest body of water in the world. No, in California. It's like no one knew it's bigger than the Pacific Ocean. Yeah, and that's how big it is. That's how big California is. Bigger than the Pacific. So it became the bigger than Tahoe, biggest body of water. And then almost overnight, people were like, oh, well, we can just go vacation there and shit. Because Palm Springs was becoming a vacation area. And now this, about 30 minutes sort of like southeast of Palm Springs, big ass sea like this. So people are taking the boats. There's like a fucking yacht club and Sinatra's going there. But the thing with it is it doesn't have a way to replenish itself. Sorry. There's like an echo and I hear it sometimes and it fucks me up. I forget English, even though I'm hearing my own English back to me. It's fucked up. So all it can do to replenish is the very little rain that happens out there and the runoff from all the agriculture. So it's all in this documentary. I didn't know any of this before. And so the salinity starts going up. It becomes super salty. The fish are dying off. There's like pesticide runoff, and it just starts getting gross. Signs start going up that make it sound worse than it is. All the tourists are like, fuck this. And they just leave everything. So in like a matter of a decade, it went from what you're seeing now to a fucking nightmare hellscape. That. And then, people just look at that, dude. Isn't that fucked up? And they just abandoned it. So there's still people that live there and they build this shit. Look at this, like put this boat out there. Like that wasn't a boat that washed up. They like built that and then left it. And then they went home to this. They live in this. Like there's people that are like, all right, let's go finish the fake boat. And then they go, let's go back to our house that's made out of old fucking carriages and plastic toy cars. What? And they're breathing in all this like crazy ass pesticide filled air. There's like higher asthma rates than anywhere in America, I think. So anyway, um, as tourists do, we drove through and just pointed and went, whoa, and then didn't do anything to help and then left. And that was it. So it's like a sad story of a place that went from being nothing to a getaway where memories are made and people have a great time with their family and think about going back, to just abandoned. And the people that were left that couldn't afford to move are now doing this and this. This thing is cool. It's a fucking old airplane. I posted a photo of it on my Instagram. But here's, I mean, one of the million people that have also taken this photo. But it's cool. It's like an old plane. Who knows if it was real at some point? And they just reconfigured it. They like added like a giant fucking spire on top. And then I don't even know if you can go into it. It looks like someone is. But it's worth checking out. Don't go after dark, apparently, they said, because I don't know. That's where the meth monsters come out. I have no idea. But it's pretty interesting. And I think it started giving me like these thoughts and feelings that I haven't had in a while, that I used to have every time I would see a place that went out of business and then was replaced by like a, you know, let's say it was like an old pizza parlor, like a Shakey's Pizza. Memories are made, families go there, they have a good time, they're eating, they're playing the Ninja Turtles video game. Oh, we'll always have this place. And then boom, it's gone. 6 months later, it's a fucking T-Mobile store. And I know that's just the way it is. That's what happens everywhere all the time. But the feeling I get when I go into the new place is just this like overwhelming sadness where I'm like, oh man, like all those memories and things are just like gone. It's like they never happened. They did happen, but no one outside of the people there will know about it. It's like the history, the nostalgia, it's just like wiped out and replaced with these like sterile walls with like the latest cell phone plan, and it just feels deader than if they didn't do anything, if they shut it down and let it rot. Like it's almost less sad to see these like rotting houses in the Salton Sea than knowing, oh, that's where my favorite arcade was, and now it's a fucking mattress store. I'd rather go to the Salton Sea and breathe that in, both literally and figuratively. And it just gets to me. Like, and I've been like that as long as I can remember. And I was talking with my girlfriend about it, and I was like, it just makes me sad to see that stuff. And I couldn't pinpoint why. And we were having coffee in Los Feliz while we were having this conversation. And I was like, you know what this used to be? It used to be like an old vintage store. And 2 or 3 of my favorite like vintage, like a t-shirt with like an eagle and a fucking truck. And it's just like, trucking for America. One of those like ironic hipstery shirts. And then like a flannel plaid button down I got from there. And they were like a couple of my first like good vintage purchases when I had like a little bit of money to like do that. And, you know, I wore the shit on them for like 10 years. I mean, there's so many photos online of like me wearing those. I wore them a lot. There's probably actually one of my old YouTube videos of me doing stand at the Chicago Improv. I'm wearing that brown and black shirt. So, you know, for me, the memory is there. But then you see that the place itself is just gone. And like that guy who like curated all the vintage, and like sold the stuff, and people came in and looked for things, and someone like me who was like, oh, I can spend $23 on a shirt now, and I'm like, yeah, and it like did something for me, and then it just like went under, everyone forgets, and now it's like every other coffee place. And yeah, I know memories will be made at this one, and it'll be a community, blah 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 blah. But there's still something there that like makes me feel empty, and I can't figure out why. Because it doesn't really have to do with them, the owners of the business. Because for all I know, they moved. Maybe they found a bigger, better place because business was booming. So it's not that. It's that there's no permanent like mark left. And my girlfriend was like, well, maybe it's more of like a personal thing. Maybe like it's about you wanting to leave a mark somewhere, and the effort that you are always putting in to do that. And maybe it just makes you sad to see when it's like there and gone somewhere else, because it's almost like a like one of those existential reminders that we are going to be just there and gone. It's, you know, on a long enough timeline, we're like, so it's kind of like gutting in a way, but at the same time, you sort of use it to work harder. And I never really thought about it that way. And maybe that's one of those self defense sort of like, I can't think too deep because then it's just going to make me like, ugh. But I think that was probably it. And then so as we unlocked that, I was like, oh yeah, maybe that is just me worrying that I'll have no mark left on, you know, whatever it is, the comedy community, the entertainment world, or just like the world in general, where it's like you're gone, but something you leave behind is remembered. And when I see these places just come, go, and be replaced by something like generic and sterile, it's this flash reminder that like that's most of us. And as we discussed it, I was like, you know what? It went deeper than that, because my first experience with a place like that, a place that you went to where you met new people and learned things and felt like you belonged, which is like always been like a big thing for me growing up. I never felt like I had like a place to be, even, you know, like at home or at school. I always felt like I didn't fit in or belong. I just felt like on the fringes. I found this coffee shop, and weirdly, it was like 2.5 blocks from where I grew up, and it was called the New Amsterdam Coffeehouse, and it was run by this guy Mike. And Mike this was in the probably mid late 90s, 97, 98, something like that. And Mike used to build stairs for a living. He was a carpenter, woodworker, and his specialty was like stair building, which apparently is like a specialized profession. It takes a lot of skill, and to do it well is even harder, like a lot of things. And he was really good at it. And he said he made like six figures. He had a nice house, a really nice car, and he had like a young son who was, I don't know, 6, 7, 8. And he still wasn't happy. This is the classic, like, I did what I'm supposed to do and I'm miserable. And he woke up one day and was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Walked away from the job, and he goes, what have I always wanted to do? Open a fucking coffee shop. You know, make drinks, hang out, have music, poetry. There wasn't any comedy there, but I'm sure that in his mind that included every spoken word, you name it. He wanted an artistic community where you could talk and share ideas and not build things for other people and walk away and never see it again just for money. And he went through it. He had the money, he had the career, and it still didn't give him anything. So he gave all that up and opened this place. And I went there once, and I grew up in a center right sort of suburb, which most suburbs in America are probably like this, even though it was 25 minutes out of like Hollywood. LA suburb, like anywhere USA. You didn't have stuff like that or people like that. You would have to drive into Hollywood to meet someone who was just like, it's cool to let go of the mainstream life and just open a coffee shop. It's unheard of. You know, it's like, no, you go to school, get good grades, go to college, become a doctor, lawyer, real estate agent. Don't even think about becoming a comedian. Those were the words I heard my whole life, all my friends. And now I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, well, he didn't do that. And he is fucking all smiles all day. He's a huge pothead, but still, if anything, it goes towards that sort of that argument where it's like, well, if you open a coffee shop, you can like run it, get high, hang out. It's like this guy was like my hero. His name was Mike. I don't know if I said that. And I remember instantly feeling like I belong there. And I'm like, I love this place. I didn't even really drink coffee back then. You know, I'm like 15, 16. And I'm like, I want to be here all the time. I'm not even old enough to work here, so I can't ask to do that. But I just want to be here. And I went there every day. And it sort of started like taking time away from the arcade, which was my previous like hangout place. And there was a little community there, but it was more transient because you'd have mostly people you wouldn't really ever see again, just coming in, playing games, leaving, all ages. There was no like centralized community. But this place had like a handful of people that came there, not just for a coffee, like a video game, you could come, play it, leave. But the coffee shop environment is more about the thing they sell. Arcade is just video game, talk, hang out, buy. This was like, yeah, you got the coffee, but then you sat down and you sort of talked about ideas. There was no internet cafes then. There was no cell phones. There was no social media. It was like this shit. And you talked and you said dumb things, you said intelligent things, you asked questions, you listened to music, you just like learned about yourself and other people in a like a judgment-free zone. And I was like, this is the coolest place. I want to come here right after school and stay until it closes. And I did. I went every day. I got to know Mike a little better. His son was like maybe 10, 11 at the time he opened the place. So he was like a cool kid. You know, he could like hang and talk to the older kids. And he was just like, he had a skateboard. You know, he was like, and his dad was super cool. So obviously he was cool. And then Mike had like, he had a girlfriend who did something. And maybe in like the mental health, like she was a psychologist, something like that. She had like a traditional sort of like career, which, you know, good for her. Everything was great between them. So it was just like happy hangout. And I remember like telling my friends about it. We would go and they're just like, a coffee shop, like what? And they were just thinking like, yeah, we're gonna have to like buy something and then we'll get like kicked out. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not like a cafe or a diner. It's different. Just come hang out. And he didn't really care if we like smoked cigarettes around the back. He's like, just don't do it out front because then the cops will show up and then it'll be this thing where they'll probably go, why aren't you telling these kids to get the fuck out of it? He's like, smoke around back. He didn't care. And we'd be there for like music night and there'd be like a guy with a, you know, acoustic guitar playing like, you know, anti-establishment folk rock music and And we're like, yeah, dude, this guy's like fucking 28. He's got like long hair. This guy doesn't give a fuck. Dude, he lives in his van? Fuck yeah. I want a van. I want to live in it. Fucking down with the system. That kind of shit. And I loved it there, man. And the only time I ever felt any sort of like judgment or weirdness was like this fucking dude came in and he was in like a, so next to La Crescenta is Tahunga and Sunland, just in the suburbs of LA. So La Crescenta is in the middle, and this is like works economically. It's middle, so it's like middle class. Over one town is La Cañada, upper class, a lot of wealthy people. And then on the other side of La Crescenta, other side of that middle, is Tahunga, kind of lower working class, little rougher, lot of fucking white supremacist like groups. And I was afraid to go to a lot of those places. You'd walk down the street, garage is open, Confederate flag. I've seen a couple like swastika flag. And I knew through a couple friends, I'm like, oh, that dude's like in a fucking prison gang, and that guy was like in some local chapter of some neo-Nazi thing. It was like, get it away from me. And I'll never forget this. And I learned a lot about racism that day. I was sitting there, and there was this guy who showed up, white dude, with this Armenian girl. And he was like, arm all over. They looked like they were like dating or whatever. And then a friend of mine goes, hey, come here, dude. He goes, that dude's like a fucking neo-Nazi. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. My older brother knew him and this and that. And like he just got out of prison or something. And I'm like, what's he doing with a fucking Armenian girl then? Doesn't it like go against his beliefs or whatever you want to call them? And we were like, yeah, it is kind of weird. Like maybe he like learned from his mistakes or some shit. So we kind of go back around the side and everyone's talking. And then we happened to walk into the conversation that answered our question. And she was like, yeah, he like does his thing and stuff, but like, he fucks me good or whatever it was. And we're like, what do you mean? And the guy's like, yeah, I'm part of whatever fucking group. And we're like, oh, yeah. Yeah, we've heard of them. And he was like, but he goes, yeah, she's not white and whatever, but like pussy's pussy or some shit. It was that stupid shit. And we're like, oh. And it never occurred to me in that moment because I just lived in like a blanket sort of fear from those groups. I never saw a gray area. And I'm like, oh yeah, even those people are like hypocrites and like not, So it's like, oh, he has this like fucking hardcore belief system, like he's in jail for probably something related to it. But it's like, oh, when you get horny, you're not a racist. Ugh. And it just sort of showed me something about how people were. And it sort of like broke away a little bit of that fear. It was like a sort of like a piercing of the armor of fear that you build towards like those hate groups. And you're like, oh, there's like a weakness there in their ideology, in their ability to like hold on to their ideology, which is good ultimately because those people can think differently. And it sort of was like, oh, it's not like they're all going to be that way forever and they're all out for fucking blood or something. And who knows, it may or may not be or have been true with that guy, but at least I was like, there's still technically a human in there, even if he is being a disgusting hypocrite. And it was because of that place I was able to, weirdly, because the owner, Mike, didn't kick out a guy like that because he was like, hey, I don't agree with it, but he's not causing a problem. He bought a drink. He's sitting here. And we were all able to sort of talk and hear these opposing viewpoints. And a lot of them didn't make sense, or they were just like, young, naive things that I or my friends say, or like hate-filled, ignorant gang shit that this guy would say. But it still allowed me to like see and hear something uncomfortable and not just, like nowadays you judge it on Twitter and run away. I had to deal with it face to face and ask myself why it was weird and uncomfortable, because it wasn't a like black or white issue. Like there was a gray area there, and it took some like understanding, and it didn't make me afraid to go back, because I was like, yeah, maybe he'll come back, but there was no fear there. And the place ran like that for a while. That guy ended up never coming back because it wasn't a place for guys like that. And he just came once or twice and he was like, this shit's boring. And then he like probably hung out in a garage with like fucking a Confederate flag and listened to Screwdriver or whatever. Who cares? But we hung out there and it felt great. And then one day it just closed. He came to us and he was like, it was almost like he was like our like dad or uncle. He's like, guys, I want you to gather around. And he like sat us down and told us, and he was like, the person who owns this building, he was either selling it or raising the rent or something. And he was like, I can't make it work. I won't be able to like afford to be here unless I did something I don't want to do, like raise prices a lot, or make everyone buy something every few hours if they want to hang out, things that didn't line up with what he wanted. And he said, I'm going to have to make the difficult decision of leaving. He was going to shut it down and move it to like near Big Bear or like Palmdale. I can't remember. This is 20-something years ago. And it just made me so sad. And I remember him going like, if you guys want to come help, move some stuff on the last day, we can hang out, have a good time. And not really put us to work. It was just one last day to chill. He was just like a nice guy. And he's the guy that, outside of my own friends, who told me like, you should pursue comedy. I know you're only 16, but if you want to do it, you're young, you got to try it. Don't listen to anybody who tells you anything else. Go with your gut. If that's your dream, go after it. And my friends would say that, but they didn't say it like an adult with experience, because they were an idiot like me with no experience. So, but he said it in a way where it pierced that armor, because it's just when you're young, your ignorance and your fear can really become like this fucking monolith. And he was like, you just gotta do it. You gotta try it. You gotta go after the thing, especially when you're young. He's like, look at me. I left this well-paying job and I opened this coffee shop and I'm happier than ever. I'm making a living. My girlfriend's happy. My son's happy. I'm happy. You guys are happy. And I never looked at it that way. I looked at it like, here's this thing I want to do. And I kept it like a secret, like it was, people were going to like laugh at me, but more importantly, talk me out of it. Because I didn't have a way to defend it. I just knew I want to do this. And I didn't need to defend it there. I just needed to be myself. And I already had a hard time doing that outside of pursuing a next to impossible dream that I didn't even know how to get started with. At the 16, no internet. Where do you go do comedy? Where do you be a comedian? And that was the place that was just like, you'll figure it out. Just go with the fact, let the fact that you want to do it lead you. Go follow that. And I remember it giving me so much confidence and hope. And I was like, this is it. Like, I got to do it. And it just gave me this like energy. And it was all because of this place. Not all because. I knew I wanted to before, but this place was a window into the world outside of the suburbs. It was like, there are people like this everywhere, and they think like this, and I'll find more people like this. And then it closed. He moved. Never saw him again. He said one day is like, yeah, I'm going to look you up, in a few years, and you'll be like, playing shows somewhere, and I'm going to come watch him and be like, I used to know that kid. He would hang out at my coffee shop. And then I just never saw them again. And I guess I never really got like closure on that place. It always stayed with me, like the sense of like freedom I got there, and knowing that the outside world is more than like the confinement of a suburb. And I always was like, where is that guy? So I told my girlfriend, and she was like, you should find him. I go, I don't. He has the most like generic name. It's like Mike Harrison. I think that was it, Mike Harrison. Michael Harrison. But if you lived in LA, La Crescenta, or whatever, around there, or Palmdale near Big Bear, or whatever, and you knew that guy or know that guy, if he's a carpenter, stair builder, coffee shop owner, had a son named Trevor, or if you're Trevor, I don't know what he would look like now. He had like dark, long, curlyish hair. I think he had like a slight cleft lip or something, cleft palate. And he was a nice kid. But I'd love to just say thank you to that guy, to Mike. If he's around still, hopefully he is, and whatever he's doing. I feel like he made and that place more than him, but he was the reason behind it. That place made an impact on me. And even sometimes the impact the place makes isn't even big at the time, but later, just the echo effect through your life, it just becomes a big part of your like outlook on life, and it happened in those formative years where it does make like a bigger impact, a deeper imprint. And just thanks, Mike, wherever you are. And I think it all stems from that. When I see those places come and go, and the loss of like community, nostalgia, memory, and the things that could have come replaced with a fucking Target, So I kind of wanted to make this whole episode about that, because it just is something that gets in my head, and I think I finally gotten to the bottom of it with the help of my girlfriend. She really helped me get there. She's great about that kind of stuff. But no episode is complete without our most popular segment, Bobby Looks Dumb. So here we go. Bobby, and this photo was submitted by Alan. Thank you, Alan. And here it is. Look how dumb Bobby looks. Here we go. Just right there. He's got his I voted sticker for social media points, I'm sure. Yeah, he chose to go out like this. Is not like for a role or whatever. Like, he was like, this is a good idea. And then he went out like that. So that's it. Let's play that song again. How do you do that? There we go. Bobby, and there you go. So that's the end of this episode. It's available everywhere on podcast platforms and stuff. I do the live YouTube thing just to have the video, so you can always come back and watch it here. I know most people don't, but whatever. So the video will still be here, and then subscribe to the According to Nick Youssef podcast. So all of this is available audio. And I know it's a headache, but leave a comment, subscribe, share it, tell a friend. These little things are like, that's what grows the show, to use a phrase that is very annoying. But those are the things that really help. So, and the thing that helps the most is the Patreon.com/ATNY. Go check that out. There's different tiers from like $3 to like 18. They all get you different things. I send you stuff, stickers, a poster, more things. The more it grows, the more stuff I'll make and give to you. The highest tiers get you free tickets to comedy shows when I come to you, or you probably come here, LA, New York. And they're going to help me do more stuff, go more places to meet, interview people. Like, I got a lot of ideas, so I want to do them. And then there's a Discord, so we can all split up into topics, so we can all like hang out and talk without it being open to fucking morons on Twitter and Instagram and wherever. There's like a music Discord, boxing, a general podcast discussion one, style, love, relationships. Like, so we can just like, you can drop in, mention something, ask a question, and we can just talk and have fun. You can come and go as you please. Those are included in like the tiers in Discord. So go to the Patreon, check it out, see what you can, spare. It's basically like you buy me a cup of coffee once a month, but we get to hang out more often than that. And I'll do like special episodes of like Patreon only, either videos or audio podcasts, and some of them will be like the things you'll want to hear or talk about. I can like review shit or like talk about different clothing, or just the stuff like that you kind of came here for. So if you're already here, I appreciate you. If you share this and bring someone in, I'll appreciate them too. So here's the end of the show.
It's the end of the show. Like, subscribe, and comment. Don't be a dick.
I like the way that came out. See you next time.